southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of the gallant South, the bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolia, sweet and fresh. Then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, for the tree to drop. Here's a strange and bitter
That's not an easy blues song. Very powerful, deeply moving, haunting lament song. Definitely not a song easy to hear, not on a day of celebration like ours. Billie Holiday sang it always with closed eyes, like a profound lament prayer. This is how I felt last summer at National Lynching Memorial in Mongomery. I thought I knew enough about American history of lynching, but there is that difference between intellectually knowing and that deep, visceral, feeling experience. The memorial itself is a solemn square stoa colonnade. From the ceiling of the colonnade are suspended life-size metal coffins representing the lynching counties across the country. 800 boxes coffins, 1/4 of all the nation's counties. Walking along the stoa, the floor slowly drops, and those boxes are hanging higher and higher. They were hanging above us, covered with thousands and thousands names. At night, those names shine through with pure white light. Looking up at rows and rows of coffins, my throat tightened. And then at the end of the colonnade, when I thought that this was over, oh no. On a side wall, there were like 24 stories beyond that name and a date, giving the reason why people were brutally killed. One particular one hit me like an freight train. It is printed in the bulletin. Henry Patterson was lynched in La Belle, Florida in 1926 for asking a white woman for a drink of water. Different people might react differently to this monument, but for me this was that moment which completely broke me. For me this was it. My eyes filled with tears and threw me into spiritual turmoil. You know, I'm a biblicist and anthropologist. Maybe for that reason it hit me that powerfully. Because offering a cup of water to a stranger, that is the biblical proverbial gesture of mercy. Throughout the ancient Near East, that was an unwritten rule and shared commandment. Jesus quotes that as a gesture of humanity in the gospel, talking when sending disciples out, mentioning that not a single gesture of as primitive gesture of humanness would be rewarded if they are offered a glass of water. And then the book of Proverbs commands, if your enemies are hungry, give them something to eat. If they are thirsty, give them a drink. That will give them something to think about. And Paul later quotes that approvingly in the letter to Romans and even adds, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Most powerfully then, there is that parable of last judgment, harsh parable. Protestant theologians usually don't know what to do with it. And in there is that litany of care for the needy. I was naked, I was in prison, I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was stranger, and you did not offer me help. When was it, those condemned would ask, that we saw you thirsty and did not give you drink? And the answer is, whatever you did not do to these little ones. Oh yeah, that could be children. But not only that, the poor, the neglected, the marginalized, the oppressed races. So whatever you did not do to them, you did not do to me. And they depart to eternal anguish. In La Belle, Florida, they not only did not give anything to drink, they tortured Henry Patterson beyond the lyrics of Strange Fruit. I studied that. I would not preach about something without really giving it a thorough read. But at that moment, I experienced an acute case of spiritual dissonance, discontent. I thought of all those faithful church-going Floridians filling the pews of their churches Sunday after Sunday. Why? For what purpose? reading the Bible, preaching, listening to sermons, praying, singing hymns and anthems, and then being asked for a cup of water and answering with cruel murder. It hurt. It hurt like hell. I recognized that I'm implicated in it. Regardless of being born on another continent, and regardless my Slav ancestors were the first slaves, who even gave the name, English name, to that word. Slaves are from my ancestry, from Slavs. Regardless of it, regardless that my ancestors suffered for faith as oppressed minority for centuries, now I am here, I realized. And as a white face in America, I am implicated in this. And I want to do my best to undo this atrocity. I also recognize that as a clergy, I'm implicated not only for my race, but for all the clergy not preaching enough or strong enough, or I don't know. I recognize that my clergy gloves must come off, dealing with this cultural prejudice and bigotry. I must protect the victims, the little ones of these. Do it peacefully, but firmly. It was my dear Lord who was and still is persecuted, tortured, lynched, crucified. It was indeed my spiritual crisis and catharsis I'm still grappling with and going through. More than half a year later. But I am thankful, profoundly thankful, to our black sisters and brothers in Equal Justice Initiative in Alabama for building up this national memorial of lynching. It is called a National Memorial, and it is properly, at least as I understand it, national, although it was not financed by federal government, and it is not administered by it either. It is national because it wants to speak to the whole nation, because it is a gift to all of us, to all American nation. And that is also how it was conceived and designed. I mentioned those 800 rusty metal coffins for each lynching county. There are actually 2 sets of them. One set is hanging in that store, in that colonnade. The other set is waiting there next to the memorial to be taken by those lynching counties and hopefully make them into their own local lynching memorials. There is also one to our New York State, Orange County, for the lynching of Robert Louis in Port Jervis. If we acknowledge and claim and deal with our history, there will be 2 national memorials, one national in name in Mongomery, and one national because dispersed throughout the nation, wherever this horror took place. What a thoughtful and profound gift from our black sister and brothers in Alabama and their sponsors of Equal Justice Initiative. Just think about it. Black History Month is to be a celebration of black achievements. And as grim as my sermon was probably until now, I consider this national memorial exactly such a great achievement. A courageous and generous gift to the American nation, helping all of us to deal with the murderous demons in our past. And unfortunately, so often as we hear about the killings of black men on the streets, in our presence. It is an offered hand of help, offering an opportunity for awakening, for a spiritual catharsis. Only that way we can be atoned and redeemed. Amen.